there, from Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. This video will basically be a continuation of the previous video about various reports that you can get on your actual costs. In the previous video, I went to this actual cost database button down here, and I was talking about how you can open big databases of your job costs, do specific searches, and you could use a big database of all your jobs and all your costs, so you could search for a particular cost and compare them between jobs if you like, etc. Or you could select a job and then open a job cost database for that selected job only and do searches. You could do searches for range of dates for when entries were posted or when they were paid, or searches for paid only or unpaid only, that kind of thing. Narrow it down to certain cost codes or certain vendors. Just look for one vendor and what you paid them. So when you use the database, you can also open a search to do all kinds of things and then produce your reports of actual costs based on those searches. However, since the last video, I've changed this menu screen up a little bit, and in the previous video I showed just opening one actual cost report without doing a search, one actual cost report for this job. But let me select our demo job we've been working on so that these buttons get active. Now you can see that the button has changed to being quick actual cost reports for selected job. In the previous video, I was talking about going to the budget revenues button and finding a link for those, but now instead I talk about going there for variance reports that will show your budgets, POs, change orders, etc. And here's some directions for how to get to those. We actually went over those in great detail in some previous videos about estimated cost of completion, contract balance reports, profit transfers, etc. But what I'd like to show you in this video is some of the additional reports maybe we didn't look at last time, and how you can click this button without doing a search and just get reports for that job, for that job, various kinds of reports. Some of these reports, actual job cost detail, actual job cost with markups. We talked about in the previous video by stage with no vendor group. But here's a couple of reports that are also on this screen, because we can bring in the revenues by just having a flat window like this. And as I mentioned before, please read and watch other things about how CHS gathers job costs from your accounting database, and how it finds them to put them on these reports. The first one here is cost and revenues detail. So you'll notice a little bit of difference in it from some of the reports in the previous one, in that it shows the total revenues received and the actual cost to date and the difference between those two. Just a little bit lets you know where you're at with that job a little bit cash-wise, although we do some more extensive reports about job cash flow, which we'll cover in some next videos. And then it lists, like we saw before, all the actual cost detail, who you paid, what vendor is shown here, whether they're paid or not paid actually, the status of those. Here's some unpaid ones and their amounts, etc. So, and then they're grouped in green by what's called cost code groups. You might have different cost codes. You can see that in this group for plumbing. We have some rough plumbing fixture. This is just the job cost so far to date. This isn't all the job costs for this job because it's early in progress. And then down at the bottom you can see a detailed list of the job revenues, if you like. That is the amount that you see at the top. So that's what that report is about. Like I said, we saw these various reports, but here's an actual job cost summary that we didn't see, and that's just showing you the groups and the totals so far to date of the cost codes without all the detail of who you paid and unpaid. It's just a quick summary of those that you might use now, or you might use later once the job is closed, to see all the job costs. And you can see what date you actually printed this one, etc. So that's just a quick summary of just the totals for each cost code under the group. There's also another button here where if you just would like to real quickly print unpaid posted job costs, and that's all you want to see is how much has currently been posted as an actual job cost but have not been paid yet. You'll see that all of these are unpaid in case you're just quickly wanting to look at that. On that subject, and this just tells you to open the database basically to do searches based on dates, groups, etc. I'm going to come back to this unpaid posted job costs here in a second. And revenues received is just a simple list of your revenues that you have received on the job. You'll watch other videos about job revenues talking about how they need to be posted on the deposit window, even if it is a zero lot draw, and with specific deposit categories so that the program can know which records in your accounting database to be included on this job revenues report. Before I go over here to the unit cost, let's jump away from this for just a minute. On that unpaid costs, notice that under the job costs, there's a button for approve unpaid costs, which we're going to go over in a little more detail later. But I wanted you to see how you can, I'll just select our demo job, and it only shows jobs that have unpaid bills. How you can also open a database of those unpaid bills so that you can do various approvals. These are posted costs posted by the bookkeeper into accounts payable, job costs that are not paid yet. And there's boxes here for somebody in the field to approve those costs for payment, also to click a T and write notes about it, drill down on the ECC overages, drill down on the POs versus costs, also be able to see whether it's been check marked earlier in the field that the work on this PO is done. But there's various videos, all other videos about this window. But what I wanted to point out is there is another more hefty report of these unpaid costs that are going to show you some pretty good information about all the notes and detail about the cost, various notes that have been written in the field, and another really hefty report that is all unpaid job costs and all your estimated cost of completion info. So it shows the original budget, change orders, POs, cost to date, if the estimated cost of completion is expecting to be over or not. That's a simple little job we didn't do much on. Here's our Vista View job going on. You can see this much has been budgeted. You can see the detail of the actual cost posted. You can see the estimated cost of completion. You can spot whether something is heading over. Maybe look at the notes on the previous report I just opened and see whether they've been check marked as OK 1 or 2. But I just wanted to point that out, that this is available more so than just a quick, simple list of unpaid bills, posted costs here. There is a place to go to actually really review those and approve those and look at uploaded bills that a bookkeeper might have uploaded so that you can stop routing around, all your stacks of bills for the field to approve. So even though this is a simple report, there's another more beefy place to be handling the unpaid posted costs. Now this section over here will show when you set up the job, you can set up priority measures. You can actually edit those and add to those right here with the edit job measures. There's a top 6 priority measures that you will mark as priority measures when you set up the job, and that's what we'll base reports on. But you can keep adding more specs that are actually used when you're doing job budgets, etc. But this is just a simple report. Quite often the living square feet is used, and it's just a simple report of your actual cost posted so far, and then dividing them by whichever we're basing this one on being divided by 4,300 living square feet. Now this reports would be a little more valuable after you have more actual job costs in, to be able to review, maybe even more valuable after this job is done, to be able to review what the unit costs were per living square feet. So that's right now we're at 17.75 per living square feet, but that really doesn't mean anything until actually you have all the actual costs posted for a job. So it's available here, same type of thing. It will divide it by other priority measures if you like. And then there's one big report with all 6 unit costs right here. And they're in different colors, and it's giving you a color code key up here. So if you're wanting to just kind of look at the living square feet column, you'd look at this sort of light, this green one or green blue one or whatever it is. And you can see all of them like that if you're just wanting to, because you might, for one thing, on footings and foundations, you might be preferring to look at the slab, which is this column in blue. But on other things, you might be preferring, like plumbing, you might be preferring to pay attention to the living square feet, which is in this green, etc. So there's that report that you can get right away. So these are the quick actual job cost reports. We went over vendors to use lists based on POs, vendors used based on your actual costs in a previous video in this section. So you can watch that video to see how useful those vendors used and to use on job could be to hand to various entities that might be asking for that. So that's all I wanted to show you on this video. We will continue on to look at a few more actual cost reports combined with variance summaries for all the jobs. In the next videos, we will be talking about various reports you can get of groups of all the jobs and comparing them and looking at various unit prices and comparing those for budgets and to actual, etc. And thank you for watching.